Just waiting for it to go live. Okay, great. We are now live, so we can make a start. Just gonna have a look at the settings. Perfect. Good to go. All right then. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are tuning in today, live for International Youth Day. A very warm welcome to everyone joining us from across the globe on this very special occasion of International Youth Day 2025. I'm Koisha Mukherjee, founder and CEO of The Leading Youth, and I'm truly honored to be hosting this live celebration with all of you, our vibrant, curious, and change making community of young leaders. Today, as we come together, I want to first talk about why we are here and what unites us. At The Leading Youth, or TLY as we like to fondly call it, our mission is simple but powerful: to empower young people like you with skills for life, reforming global education by delivering experiential learning through trips and training in skills like leadership, communication, critical thinking, resilience, etc. The skills that aren't just about getting a job, but about creating a meaningful life. We work with youth aged 15 to 35 from across continents through training, mentorship, and global opportunities, helping them grow as leaders, connect with each other, and create solutions that matter. And our vision: to ensure that every young person feels seen, heard, and capable of shaping the future they dream of. So, what is the International Youth Day about? The International Youth Day is more than just a date on the calendar. It's a global platform recognized by the United Nations to celebrate the creativity, energy, and passion of young people, and to remind the world that our voices are not optional, they are essential. Each year, there's a new theme that reflects both the challenges and opportunities before us. And this year's theme is particularly close to my heart. The UN has declared local youth actions for the SDGs and beyond as this year's focus. This is therefore highlighting the role of youth in translating global ambitions, the Sustainable Development Goals, into community-driven realities. And you, the youth, are the bridge between these big ideas and the everyday actions that make them happen. So for us at The Leading Youth, this theme is not just a topic, it's our daily work. We are deeply committed to the Sustainable Development Goal of quality education. But when we say education, we don't just mean textbooks and classrooms. We mean equipping young people with life skills that prepare them for the challenges of the 21st century. So whether that's about tackling misinformation with critical thinking, leading change with empathy and emotional intelligence, managing time and priorities in an overwhelming world, or negotiating and influencing for the causes that you believe in. By helping youth develop these skills, we are making sure that education is relevant, inclusive, and empowering, and that it leads to action, not just knowledge. So, why are you here today? This session is about you. It's about celebrating you. We have brought together young changemakers from around the world to share ideas, inspire each other, and explore how each of us can localize the SDGs in our own lives and communities. I want you to know this: you are not here by accident. You are here because your skills, your voice, and your vision matter. So, whether you are joining us from a small town or a bustling city, you have the power to take a global goal and make it real in your own context. So, today, as we listen, engage, and reflect, I challenge you to do these three things. Number one, speak up. Share your perspective. It might be the spark someone else needs today. Second, support each other. The biggest changes happen when we lift each other up. And lastly, take action. Turn what you learn here into something tangible in your community. So remember, the SDGs are not someone else's responsibility, they are our responsibility. So, on behalf of the leading youth, I welcome you to an afternoon of stories, strategies, and solutions. Let's celebrate International Youth Day not just by talking about change, but by being the change. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the session today. So let's get started. With that, I'll now hand over to Pranjal for a brief introduction about the UN's theme on International Youth Day.
Hello, everyone. I am Pranjal, a member of the TLY team. I'm really excited to be here with all of you today for our panel discussion. And it is so exciting to be surrounded by all these dreamers and doers. And I honestly cannot wait to listen into their insights and advice. But before we begin, I want you all to use your imagination a little and think about a very young Malala, a girl from a small village who risked everything just to get an education because she believed learning was the first step to changing the world. Also, think about the very young Greta Thunberg, who focused on out of classroom education and started as a very determined teen, sparking a global movement for climate action with only her voice and her passion. Both these individuals use life skills, grit, and a fearless creativity to make a difference. But why are we discussing these stories? What is our takeaway from them? It is something very simple yet very powerful. Education is more than books. It is about equipping young minds to lead, innovate, and bring real change with passion and a drive to thrive. And this brings me to why we are here today and why International Youth Day, celebrated every year on August 12th by the United Nations, is so important. The United Nations, or the UN, is known for working towards global causes and purposes. The UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are a list of 17 goals that are to address such a global cause of ending poverty, fighting inequality, or protecting our planet, all by the year 2030. Among these goals, SDG 4, or quality education, stands out as a true game changer. It is the key that unlocks opportunity, builds skills, and empowers young people to become the leaders and change makers of today and tomorrow. International Youth Day isn't just about celebrating young people, it is about recognizing their power to drive development and the need to support them with education, platforms, and opportunities. This year's theme of the UN, which is local youth action for the SDGs and beyond, perfectly captures this very essence. It reminds us that while the SDGs are global goals, the real magic happens when the youth take charge of their own communities. This theme acknowledges that you, the youth, are not just beneficiaries of development, but are the real agents that are responsible for change. It recognizes the inclusion of youth, the creativity, and the energy they bring as being very essential to address and resolve complex challenges. And this is where we, the leading youth, steps in. The UN theme tells us where the change must happen, but we at TLY focus on how the youth can make that change happen. We focus on life skills so you can develop and apply them to turn your ideas into real world impact. Our event theme of the day, which is the skill shift, how the youth can level up to bring change, is all about these very life skills: creativity, resilience, critical thinking that young people like you and me can develop and use to create impact. At TLY, we believe education is not just about textbooks, classrooms, and exams. It is about experiences. It is about life skills that will fuel innovation and leadership. When the youth are equipped with these skills, they become the real change makers that turn global goals into local action. So, this International Youth Day theme of the UN and what we do at TLY share a very simple but a very powerful message. You, the youth, are not just the future. You are the present. You are the now. And by supporting youth education and skill building, we empower them to lead locally and change the world. As we dive into today's conversations and hear from very inspiring young change makers, remember the story I started with, a reminder that every big change begins with a small step, fueled by education and the courage to act. On this note, let's get ready to be inspired.
Thank you, Pranjal. And with that, we are now going to be diving into the most exciting part of the day, our panel discussion. We have with us two incredible change makers, each proving that passion, skills, and vision can turn ideas into movements. This will not be a mere conversation, but a look into the minds and experiences of these two changemakers who are shaping the world in real time. So get ready, ready to hear how they have leveled up to bring change, and get ready to be inspired so you can level up too. We have with us Anushka, who, when most were figuring out multiplication, was publishing her first poetry book at the mere age of 10. She's now the founder of Biblioverse, a platform for helping kids and teens to turn imagination into action. We also have with us Jen, who is a young trailblazer balancing academia, activism, and leadership, and redefining what it really means to be a young, vibrant voice in global change. Now, I can only do so much justice to the introduction of these two amazing young change makers that we have got with us here today, and really grateful for the time that you're bringing with yourselves today. Just to do justice to your profiles and to yourselves, I would really request the two of you to do a 2 minute introduction about yourself, about your venture or your passion, and tell our audience what is it that you do and who you are. So maybe we'll start with Anushka first, 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to Jen as well.
Of course, thank you so much. Hi everyone, I am Anushka Sabnis. I'm currently an undergraduate studying philosophy, politics, and economics at King's College London. Um, I've always been drawn to the intersection of global politics, social justice, and youth engagement, but I've also had a really strong inclination towards creative writing. And I've explored my interests through writing, research, and social impact initiatives. One of the most important and the dearest initiatives to me has been Biblioverse, which is a community network for young readers and writers. We have around 3,000 members across 11 countries, and I primarily lead workshops, courses, and competitions through Biblioverse. Um, by encouraging young adults to read and write, my goal with Biblioverse was not just building better storytellers or building better readers or writers, but also building a world that truly values creativity and curiosity. Other than that, my research work has also been incredibly diverse, from a psychological study on body image to microfinance institutions in South Asia. And across all of it, I always like taking a participatory approach, because I think that information in any form must be accessible and engaging if it ever is to have any real world impact. Apart from this, I love reading, I love indie pop and alt rock music, I love nature documentaries, but only ones narrated by David Attenborough. And yeah, that's me. And I'm incredibly honored to be here on this panel today, and I look forward to some great conversation.
Thank you, Anushka.
Fantastic.
Over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Jen, and I am currently a rising third-year student at the London School of Economics, and I am majoring in Bachelor of Science, Psychological and Behavioral Science. I consider myself a super, I guess, multicultural scholar because I grew up in Budapest, Hungary, and then spent 5 years in China learning Mandarin from the age 5 to 10. And then I moved back to Hungary and then switched to American International School. And then I also did a year in Canada right now. And then right now I am embarking my journey in London. So thank you so much, Koisha, for the lovely invite, and super happy to be here. And just for the audience to get to know about me a little bit more, I am currently serving as the first female president at the LACSU Entrepreneur Society, which is one of the UK's largest entrepreneurial communities. And I'm super happy to be serving as the first female president because that just really sets a role model for the women and the young people that women can also achieve this. And it has been breaking the history because in the 20 years of establishment, there were no female president meetings. So I'm really honored to be leading that change. And then besides, I work on and I do a lot of projects regarding women's empowerment at the World Economic Forum Global Shaper. And also I launched a really huge project at LAC that led to institutional change of over 15K students and staff at LAC. And so, yeah, super happy to be here today and really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have to empower youth for the future.
Thank you so much, Jen and Anushka. Those are two very powerful introductions, setting the tone for a powerful panel discussion that's going to follow now, and I'm sure is going to leave our audience charged up, motivated, and inspired to listen from the two of you. So, just to reiterate the topic or theme for our panel discussion today, it's called the skill shift, how the youth can level up to bring change. So this is connected to the UN theme that we alluded to earlier on in the beginning of today's session. And so to kick off the panel discussion, I would like to first start with a question for Jen, and then I'll come back to Anushka as well with a specific question for her. But firstly, Jen, you obviously have so many achievements to your name, and we've done a masterclass together as well, which again, by the way, is on our TLY YouTube channel. So if anyone hasn't watched the masterclass that Jen and I shot together earlier this year, please
It
go
was
watch
amazing.
it was
It
so
was
much
amazing
fun.
conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And so talking about your achievements then, you said you're a student leader at LSE, you're a policy advocate, global shaper, doing so much for women empowerment and bringing together young people under entrepreneurship. So you basically have multiple hats, which is super amazing and inspiring. But tell us, which life skill has been most crucial for you in navigating these diverse roles?
All right. Thank you for the great question. And I just wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit more about, for example, we all know, for example, balancing as a student with the academics, because, you're in a super competitive university. Meanwhile, you're holding so many different titles, serving as a change maker, a global shaper, a policy advocate, meanwhile, being a student in such a big leadership role. I think one of the most important things that I would really recommend, I guess, young people to really, I guess, discover early on is to really find out what truly drives you and what truly gives you joy, because that is a life principle that I live by. So talking to a little bit more about like why the joy principle. I've set myself this Jen joy principle because in my Chinese name, I do have Shu Yue, which means Shu is comfortable and Yue is joy. So I really live by, the discipline of having a comfortable, meanwhile, a joyful life. And so I think a really important life skill is to really find what really inspires you and what really drives you. And for me, how I got the question so many times, for example, so many people ask me, how did you manage so many different, I guess, diverse roles? Because I'm also a dancer on the side and also a content creator. So it's like, there's a lot of different things that I need to handle. But ultimately coming back, it is really finding out your joy. And also because when you actually do things you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. And that is your gifted talent. And I think that is super important to, I guess, recognize and recognize early on, because that's why I was able to, I guess, navigate so many different roles, because for me, they don't feel like jobs. They don't feel like work. So I think it's really important to be able to selective with what you do, and also how to manage your time, because time is also money at the same time. And also, I think one of the really important thing is when you come to, for example, when youth coming into higher education, it is very easy to be, I guess, influenced by others in terms of what other people are chasing and what other people are doing. But ultimately, you have to recognize you are living your life for your own and for yourself. So finding what truly inspires you, finding what actually gives you fulfillment and what really gives you joy, that will really help you unlock your potential, and also to be able to, do well on the job and also have fun at the same time. So I think that is one skill that I would say is the most important, that is truly down to my personal life principle, that really helped me to navigate all these different roles.
That's amazing. And I only wish more young people today realize the importance of recognizing their passion, and then also having the courage to then follow on their passion and actually do what they love doing, instead of giving in to societal pressures or general expectations, or what they think is good for them instead of what is actually good for them. So thank you for differentiating between the two and leading by example there. And so moving on then to Anushka, maybe taking a leaf from what Jen just shared about life skills that she basically embodies in her day-to-day life. Tell us, Anushka, what inspired you to start Biblioverse to help children and teens at such a young age? And what was the most unexpected life skill you found useful relying on it?
Of course. So I started Biblioverse as an online platform when COVID struck in 2020, when I was just like freshly 13. Um, I'd always been an avid reader and very interested in poetry, especially writing poems. But I also recognized that this wasn't a very common interest or hobby to have, at least for people my age. So my initial goal with Biblioverse was just to spread the message and get as many young people as I can to explore the world of literature and also provide some sort of social activity during the incredibly isolating period that lockdown had created. Um, if it comes to sort of skills that I was inspired by, then I was definitely inspired by the belief that imagination, creativity, and empathy are absolutely irreplaceable skills in a world that is so rapidly being automated. So, by encouraging children and young adults to build habits of reading, writing, I really wanted to contribute to building that generation of empathetic and open minded people. And starting young meant that I could also grow with the community, which has been incredibly true. But when it comes to an unexpected skill that I relied on when running this initiative, it has to be like adaptability and flexibility on your toes. Because in the initial few months of Biblioverse, I think it was pretty smooth sailing because it was so new. People were participating in the competitions we organized and ideas were flowing. But after a point, participation and engagement really started stalling. So I had to completely pivot and shift what I wanted Biblioverse to look like from just hosting contests to also creating interactive content. I had to I sort of started developing live workshops. I posted book reviews. I made reels and content. I also built a crash course on how to write poetry for young adults. And I published it on the Biblioverse website. And these things really made the members of Biblioverse feel not just like an audience to whom we were throwing information at, but co-creators of the Biblioverse community. And it did work. It really helped participation shoot up. And, over the years, we've grown into quite the thriving community. So looking back, I think knowing when to understand that something isn't working and immediately being flexible enough to sort of scrap that idea and start afresh, it takes a certain amount of adaptability, but it also takes a lot of courage, because when you've put a lot of thought into something and you have to completely scrap your initial idea, it can feel incredibly daunting. So yeah, I think adaptability was something which was quite unexpected, because I hadn't really expected I would completely have to change what I imagined Biblioverse to be for it to be able to run successfully, and for the community to grow so that people can feel ownership of the space as well. So that is what I would say has been something unexpected but incredibly important when it comes to me running my initiatives.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned a word there saying taking ownership, which I think is beautiful because that's exactly what we are trying to promote here as well at the Leading Youth, where we want people to take ownership, take initiative, lead confidently while discovering their potential and empowering them to lead in what they are good at or are passionate about. So I think this is obviously a theme that is echoing across the conversation that we are having here today, that understanding your potential and believing in yourself is the only way you're going to be able to take that ownership and lead in whatever you choose to do in life. So I think connected to that then is also a question about careers that young people today are quite confused about, are not that clear about or confident about, let's say. So I think a lot of young people struggle to relate their academic background or experience with what they actually end up doing or want to do. And most likely it ends up becoming a mismatch without utilizing the knowledge or expertise that they gained through their academic training. So a question for you there, Jen, is how do you see your academic background in psychological and behavioral sciences influencing the way you work towards creating lasting change?
All right. So yeah, I did psychological and behavioral science at LSE, and right now I'm still continuing my study, but I'll be graduating soon. But I think understanding psychology and also understanding, I guess, human behaviors has really helped me to understand, I guess, how the world works and also how to, how to manage group dynamics. And also it's really super helpful for developing your soft skills. And for example, I think, for example, as we mentioned, how do we implement the knowledge into your work, into, for example, the social projects you're doing, and also creating lasting change? One really important thing is, once you work on a social project, a really important thing is how do you scale up and how do you lead to growth? What's your strategic approach to lead to growth? And where psychology can really come in is to fostering, I guess, understanding how to foster good collaborations, good partnerships, and developing these skills that really help you scale up your venture and scale up your project. And I think it has been applied to, I guess, most of my daily lives, to be fair, because you need people to be, I guess, know about your work and also getting that exposure out there and also creating collaborations and partnerships to really strengthen up your venture as well. And I think also regarding behavioral science, I think it is a field that I think a lot less people touch on, but I think it plays a super critical role in influencing public policy and also social economics and policy, because a lot of, for example, behavior scientists, they have been hired to just do research about how can we nudge people to create, I guess, to choose a better decision rather than, the socially undesirable decision. For example, there are lots of like different behavior science design being used to, nudge people to, throw their litters into the trash can instead of on the streets, and also so many different similar approach. So I think psychological and behavior science, it's really an open door and allows you to do a lot of things where psychology can be applied into, I guess, consumer psychology, into business, into entrepreneurship, into, growing and scaling up a venture. Whereas behavior science, it's super helpful to, first of all, I guess, understand the people, the audience that you're working with from a behavioral level. And also it helps you expand your role into, maybe working with the government and also expanding into the social public policy sector. So I think my academic background, I really appreciated and I really enjoyed my study. And so, yeah, that was, I think, how I was able to utilize my like connecting academia into real world practices.
Fantastic. And I think since we are already here sharing our personal experiences and stories growing up as young leaders in our own way and capacity, a question for then Anushka is, what challenges, if any, did you face in running a national platform like Biblioverse, and how did you overcome them?
I think so when starting an initiative on your own, especially because I started pretty early, I started when I was 13. The main issue, one of them I already outlined, was, with consistent engagement dips and, shoots up quite volatilely, but also the lack of any funding. Starting a community, just beginning it was simple enough, but then keeping it active and growing was a tough task, especially when resources, marketing, technical support were very limited. There were times where participation was almost zero. And, as I said, I had to completely pivot and change my strategy altogether. It wasn't easy, but by breaking the problem down into smaller steps and listening very closely to what the community wanted, it was, easier to gradually rebuild momentum. Like, I think when you hit a wall, it's very easy to step back or give up or, completely press pause. But I've learned over the years that most challenges are not fixed by distance, they're fixed by persistence and consistency. I think of it like, rerouting Google Maps when you've taken a wrong turn instead of just pressing the brake and then turning around and going back home. For any problem, I look at it in a step-by-step way. First, I pause. I name the problem not in vague terms, but exactly what's blocking me. Um, I try to really sit down, reflect, get into the nitty-gritties of what my issue is. Then I break it down into further, smaller, solvable steps. Because it's far easier to win five small battles or complete five different tasks than one giant war. And I think most importantly for me, I've always believed in the power of a community, a support system. I always talk to people because sometimes the perspective that ends up saving you comes from someone entirely outside your field. It could be your parent, it could be your best friend, it could even be your neighbor. So I would say I've never attempted to persevere through a problem alone because I feel like human beings are social beings for a reason, and isolation does not mean strength. So I've always been incredibly open to ideas and just opinions of different people around me when it comes to overcoming a problem. And I think that has really helped over the years with problems as big as having no funding for a website or an app for biblioverse, to smaller problems like what is the next book review that I should post on Instagram. So yeah, relying on that support system, or people like accountability partners or just your own community, is something that has really helped me overcome problems that have come my way.
That's so inspiring. And I know we all face our unique challenges in different things that we are trying to do and learn from. But I think challenges, like you mentioned too as well, are a constant part of anyone's journey. But it's about how we effectively then use our skills and discretion to overcome those challenges and pivot our way and do what it takes to actually combat those challenges and still come out successfully from it. Um, and I know that Jen also is a strong advocate for women's empowerment and personal experiences, especially that have shaped your passion in this area. Are there any challenges you face, Jen, in your work, and how did you use life skills to grow above and beyond them?
Yeah, I think before I dive into that question, I just wanted to add on to Anushka's, I guess, response for the last question. I do agree 100% starting and also beginning your own initiative and venture. It could be very difficult at the beginning, especially given that, you might have, lack of access to fundings and everything like that. And also, even if you have set up everything, it has been running successfully, but then how you choose the people who will success, you have to run, your initiative as a succession. You won't be the person who will be probably always in charge actively. So I think just adding on to, I guess, my previous question, I think would be great to add on is, I think understanding people and understanding their strength will be really important in terms of choosing who will be the best person to carry on your project and to even scale it up even further in the future. And also being able to understand the psychology behind negotiation, communication, and also partnerships will really help you, for example, secure for sponsorships, for access to fundings, to really, develop your venture to the next level. But yeah, going back to Koisha's question about women's empowerment, I think I've been always a big women's advocate. I did also started a high school it actually started when I was back in high school. I did a huge, I guess, period poverty event product back in my high school, where we were basically kind of noticing that so many people and so many girls around the world, they're facing lack of financial support for their basic menstrual needs. And I think that is hugely part of human rights, and also it should be part of the dignity that should be protected. And so my passion really stemmed from there, where we had a full week of like donations and also raising awareness of such issues to both men and women, both students and staff in school. And then we collected all the donation, either products or financial donation, and donated to the one of the Hungarian orphanage in Hungary, in Budapest, to support the young women, especially adolescents there. And then moving on to university, I did have personal experience, and I mentioned it briefly a little bit on my podcast, on the podcast that we did at TLY. And it was because like my first 2 weeks coming into London, I was kind of like sexually attacked on the streets. It was Blackfriars Station with my friend. And at the time I was feeling, I guess, really panicking and also nervous because I'd never been actually physically like attacked like this before. Because I noticed like, all the women, like I think at some point we have faced, for example, some catcalls or, some sort of like verbal kind of like disrespectful words to you and things like that. But I think it was my first time actually going through, I guess, people touching your body without permission, without consent. So that has been super concerning. But then it wasn't like super, I guess, big or severe in terms of damage, but psychologically, it was really hard to process for both me and my friend. I remember it was taking me a long time to process psychologically, where my friend, she had a physical reaction where her nose started bleeding afterwards as well. And so at the time I was feeling, I guess, really hesitating because I lived in really big like, metropolitan cities. And I know sometimes, calling the police, they might not respond as quickly or may not be as responsive, especially if you're living in a huge city. So at the time I was like really hesitating, should I even report to the London police? Will they even actually take care of it? And then I was thinking that right now I am in the Western world, and it's definite it we have less, I guess, cultural stigma to raise awareness on such things. And if I don't even stand up for myself, what about all the girls around the world who might be experiencing something worse? And what can they do? And if we keep on dismissing such issues, the opportunity cost for, attackers in the future will be just smaller and smaller, and they will just do the same because there's no consequence to it. So I decided finally to report, but then I guess after a full month of waiting, after we reported an incident, they're gonna check for the cameras. There were 4 CCTV cameras in the station recording exactly what happened at the incident. But then the police got back with really like they were downloading errors in, when they're getting the footage, which I think it's so the case was forced to be closed. And that drove me really mad. I've been waiting for a full month and did so many phone calls back and forth with the police, but then it's in the 21st century, and what they got back is they're like downloading errors in the footage. So after that, I really led up a really big social change project at LSE, raising such issues, especially regarding sexual consent, and also conducting using, I guess, academic research and knowledge to really see, for example, how sexual consent and also what's a campus environment for people's perception towards such issues, and also what could be changed in our consent education policy right now to make, both the staff as well as the students to be even more aware and go through more training so that we can protect probably not even like right for the project. If we can, unite all the LSC people together, that is part of the small change. But if we can raise it bigger, it's already part of a small change. But I think what I did at the end was the research project has been fully funded by LAC's Eden Center for Higher Education. And it was a huge kind of like social campaign going around. And I think I was really glad that all of my professors were so supportive. They were posting such issues and tagging London Transport Police on like their Twitter, their LinkedIn. And so that we've got their official response to file reports and also complain. But then I think ultimately I was just really happy at the end that through our research and also psychological analysis and also analyzing what is lacking in our university right now has been proposed and presented to the LSE leadership team. And right now it has been incorporated into the policy change through our intervention recommendations into the policy. And right now, so it's impacting 15K staff and students. So that's why I'm just really happy, genuinely really happy that the event and the project went really successful. But it comes from a very personal story. But I think my suggestion is, it is, I think sometimes, a lot of times for women, it is really the anger inside us that drives us to, really act on the movement and really drive the change. And just be really brave and speak up and make your words known and heard.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your personal story here, Jen. And I'm really sorry for what you had to experience, but at the same time, really proud of you for taking that step of courage. I think that is where a lot of young women probably would falter and not go ahead with what you probably managed to do in that moment. Thank you for sharing that. I think this is something that definitely a lot of young women would relate with. And I think the first step in youth leadership, again, is that step of bravery and courage to speak up. Like I mentioned at the introduction as well today, that we really need to speak up and set an example. And it might be through our own personal challenges and struggles, but sharing that story is where the first door opens up for other people to follow the lead and maybe, take inspiration from the courage that you displayed to then take similar steps in their own respective lives for maybe different other challenges that they are facing as well. So really inspiring. And thank you for sharing that story. So we're going to end this sort of individual questioning round with one final question for each of you on your advice for young people before we move on to the last section of this panel session, which is going to be about a couple of questions to wrap up and get your thoughts on skills regarding the theme set by UN for this International Youth Day. So the one question that I would like to ask Anushka is, for young people who feel hesitant to share their work publicly, what advice would you give to help them take that first step?
Um, I like to think that the only requirement for the success of any first step is simply that you take it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be a start. Because often the hardest part is overcoming the fear or the doubt that you have or the comparisons that you make to other people around you. But the truth is that everyone starts somewhere incredibly uncertain. And the more disruptive or the more innovative your idea or initiative is, the more shaky the ground is that you stand on. So fear and doubt will always be there, but it is truly up to you to let them be hindrances. I'd say always also stay curious and open to learning, and don't let the fear of judgment or failure or rejection stop you from exploring new ideas or opportunities, and just putting your foot forward and taking that first step, because growth comes when you push yourself to succeed, but also not to the point of breaking, because there is a difference between a healthy challenge and self-destruction. It's still really important to have your foot on the accelerator, give yourself a little bit of that push, and then you're on cruise mode. And most importantly, a lot of times when people don't want to take the first step to something new or something that they've never really attempted before, it's because they have a very narrow idea of what their outcome should be or what their process should look like. They have like ideas of perfection. Do not fixate on a particular outcome which you think or which someone else thinks or expects is perfect, because your work and your journey will evolve even if you're working on one project, and that's okay. Because when I originally started Biblioverse, I didn't call it Biblioverse. It was a tiny home library when I was 7 years old, which later, when I turned 13, evolved into an online platform. It was supposed to be just a space for me to share my love of reading with other kids my age. And then, after 6 years of it being a home library, when COVID struck, it became an online platform. It completely grew in scale. So, as I grew, my vision for Biblioverse also grew. So, take that first step, however small or uncertain or, filled with doubt you may feel, and just keep moving forward. Go with the flow. Don't limit yourself, don't restrict yourself, and definitely do not bind yourself to internal or external expectations. Let the sort of wind take you with it, and you will reach good places. So,
Fantastic. Love that. And Jen, continuing on the theme of young women, what advice would you give to those who want to lead in spaces where they are often underrepresented?
That's a really good question, and it's really hard actually to just summarize them into one. But I think I guess my central message is to really believe in yourself, as we have talked about a little bit in the podcast before, to really trust that you deserve a seat at the table, and also having this confidence that builds within you. Once you started to love yourself and believe in yourself, confidence will also come at the same time. And I think my really central advice is to be brave and really pursue what really drives you and really gives you energy and gives you purpose and fulfillment. And also at the same time, just even, for example, there are circumstances where, for example, my previous women's public safety project, I could find nothing but negative inside the experience. There was actually, I don't see any positive things from that experience, but you can always turn a negative experience into positive change. So that is kind of like my central message, is to really be brave and really pursue what drives you and what keeps your anger going, and really just be brave and just believe that you deserve a seat and you deserve to be here.
Amazing. All really inspiring and thought provoking messages to end this round with. We're going to wrap up the panel discussion now with one final question for both of you. So we can go in any order, but just one last question. What that one message you would like our young aspiring audience to take away today that could help them level up in their own journeys and endeavors and thrive towards creating change? Who would like to go first between Anushka and Jen?
I'm happy to go first.
Please go ahead.
I'd say my one message has to be to stay curious and never stop learning, because the moment you think you know enough is when your growth will stop. The key is to open yourself up completely to as many new experiences as possible, and try things that you might not enjoy and you might not even consider as being part of your skill set or part of your interest, and things that you think that maybe you're not good at. Sometimes you're almost gonna have to force yourself to give new things a go, but don't shy away from that. And if learning the traditional way, the conventional way feels intimidating, then look up learning in disguise, which is basically learning through experience. Volunteer for roles that you've never tried, maybe shadow someone in a field that you might be vaguely interested in, or teach somebody something that you already know. It could be biology, it could be crocheting, it could be the history of pottery. Basically be a lifelong student and just be flexible, be open, be curious, and you're all set. So, yeah.
That's a fantastic message and takeaway for a lot of young people who are tuning into this session. So thank you for sharing that. Jen, what are your final thoughts on this?
I totally agree with Anushka. Always stay hungry, stay foolish. And I think my message would really be, as we're tackling, I guess, the rising age of AI, and also, I guess, a lot of us kind of have to reskill to prepare really for the future. My really message is to, I guess, really develop one skill I would really like suggest all the young people to really work on is, I guess, coming down to being human. Because I think a lot of times as we are coming into, artificial intelligence, a lot of these work could be substituted, but things relating to soft skills, to emotional intelligence, to clear and really good communication, they cannot be replaced, as well as, the AI robots. And what to really remain between humans is the warmth, is the love that we share within each other. And also, I guess, as you're leveling up as well, I think it is always important to cheer on for others as well, because a lot of times, when I know a lot of, for example, a lot of people could be dealing, for example, with, seeing others being super successful, either feeling pressured or being jealous and things like that. But I think it is really important to have a very good mindset in tackling that. And also, it is always, always the best to inspire and also, I guess, elevate each other as well. And also, this will be what really, lead to a better change to the world once you help each other, support each other, elevate each other, and cheer each other's on. And so, yeah, my final message is really to focus on your human skills, because that's what's going to be missing and lacking in the future once everybody only focuses on the technical stuff. But I guess the superpower is to really believe in yourself, and also meanwhile keep shining and keep inspiring.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jen and Anushka, for sharing that final tip and advice for all young leaders tuning into this conversation. And with that, we come to the end of this fantastic panel. I've definitely had a grand time just listening to you both, sharing your stories, experiences, and lessons with everyone here today. And I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of everyone to not just thank you, but also taking away a lesson or two myself and how we can all be better at what we do and lead by example in our own respective journey and career. And thanks again, Jen, for also talking about the human element behind all of this, because it is so important at this time and age that we are living in, where everything's being led by data and AI, to remember that at the core of it all, those AI skills or AI robots actually exist to complement the human skills and not substitute us as humans. So as long as we can differentiate between the two and remember that we should not give up being humans, no matter what challenge we are facing in which career, and just remember to be kind, empathetic, listen to each other and help and support each other, especially as young people, as this is again about having that community feeling and getting to learn from each other and kind of finding out our own respective path by understanding and drawing lessons from people like you through these panel discussions, so that we all feel like we are supported and have each other to look up to. And that's exactly what we are doing here at the Leading Youth as well, trying to promote that spirit of community among young people while promoting the need to continue learning, upskilling ourselves in those necessary life skills that are not being taught to us as part of our educational institutions, and then understanding that it is time to bring about reform in our education system and embracing the new way of learning. So thank you so much, Anushka and Jen, once again for bringing in your knowledge, expertise, and sharing your time with us here today. I'm again really grateful for, on behalf of everyone, for everything that you shared with us here today. And with that, we are going to wrap up the discussion now, and totally up to you both to stay on or continue listening to the end of our session, as well as we will be now announcing the winners of our international youth competition that we launched about a month back in the run up to International Youth Day that we are celebrating today. So we had a really interesting competition where we encouraged young people to share their stories on social media about how they can turn their skill into a superpower, something that we just discussed about in this panel session as well. And I'm very happy to announce the winners. This year's theme of turning that skill into a superpower has found its perfect match in two young voices. And also, thank you to everyone who participated in the competition. And I think there's always going to be a winner, or in this case, a tie winner for us. And that's Shrishti Bose and Arpita Kunden. Thank you for making your entries to the competition. Really loved going through your posts, and thanks for tagging us and taking the time to write up and share your voice through this initiative. So they have voiced inspiring and practical solutions to tackle the challenges faced by the youth of today. Shrishti Bose's post has been suggesting making hidden opportunities visible, ensuring every young person can align their abilities with real market demands and work toward purposeful growth. And Arpita's post was inspired by her sister's example, and she has suggested using decision making as a superpower to convey that ownership of choices that can transform study habits and life more than rote learning and what exams can do for us. So really inspiring post again, and congratulations to both Shrishti and Arpita for participating and winning this international youth competition. Well done to both of you. We will be resharing your posts on our official Leading Youth social media pages. And as promised, we are going to give away some surprise prizes, certificates, and you will also have a mentorship session with me as the founder of the Leading Youth to talk through anything that you would like to talk through. So we will be in touch with the winners after the event today with the necessary details on your very well-deserved prizes. So congratulations to both of you. And now with that, I am going to hand over to Amrita, a learning and training partner at the Leading Youth, to briefly introduce herself and also talk a little about the Leading Youth. Over to you, Amrita.
Hi, and thank you for being here for the skill shift, how the youth can level up to bring change. And I'm here to tell you about our main services and how they can add value to your career. So our work essentially bridges the gap between what's taught in classrooms and what's needed in the real world. We help youth develop the life skills that matter the most, from communication to influencing, persuasion, and critical thinking, to resilience, problem solving, collaboration, and everything else that you need. Our flagship program, Lead Up, is aimed at empowering you with skills for life. Skills that school taught you, but we'll teach you how to speak in interviews, lead a team, pitch your ideas, solve problems under pressure. So Lead Up is designed for college students who are looking for an edge in a competitive job market, recent graduates bringing their experience, but we are helping them bridging the gap from theory to practice, young professionals accelerating their growth and career changers building on transferable skills for any industry, and aspiring leaders ready to step up and guide others effectively. In short, we equip young people to thrive professionally and personally because classroom learning ends here and the real world learning starts now. Along with the skill building programs, we also create immersive leadership experiences from international trips to global cities like Goa and Dubai. These are not just getaways, but these are transformative journeys where you learn from young change makers, content creators, and industry experts through masterclasses. You get a chance to build global network and grow as a professional while exploring new cultures. This ensures practical and immediately applicable insights where you can learn directly from those who are actively shaping today's business landscape. And you can come back recharged, inspired, and ready to take on the world. At the Leading Youth, our mission is simple: to help you build the skills, confidence, and global perspective to lead with purpose. Whether it's through our Lead Up program or our immersive leadership and entrepreneurship experiences, we believe real growth happens when you step outside your comfort zone into the real world. Today's conversation is part of that journey, so get ready to connect and level up to bring the change only you can.
Thank you so much, Amrita. And with that, we come to an end to today's International Youth Day with the Leading Youth. So, as we wrap up this incredible International Youth Day, my heart is really full of gratitude right now. So, thank you to every single one of you, especially all our speakers, the TLY team members, as well as our panelists for joining today to celebrate International Youth Day together. And to all our listeners joining in to this conversation live from YouTube, thank you for being patient and listening in till the end as well. You've all reminded us why the youth voice matters more than ever today. Your presence wasn't just participation, it has been a powerful statement that our generation is ready to lead, innovate, and create impact. The UN theme this year reminded us that change is not a spectator sport. And at the Leading Youth, we believe in rolling up our sleeves and building that change together. So, whether it's through education, skills, or leadership, we need to remember that you are the architects of the future, and not just the future, you're already leading today in your own respective ways. So, let's not make this energy a one-day thing. Take today's inspiration, turn it into action, and let's meet again with even bigger wins to celebrate. So thank you for trusting the Leading Youth to be a part of your journey. Together, we're not just talking about change, we are leading it. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. And with that, wishing you once again a very happy International Youth Day and hope to see you again soon. Thanks all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the team, for organizing, and such a pleasure to be here today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting us and for the lovely conversation we had today.
Amazing. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day.
You too. See you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Anushka. Bye all.
Bye.